Hey, everybody, Mark Masters. It's Monday night. It's time for another episode of Always Bookin Comedy. We are short a guest at the moment. Hopefully, they pop on. I just sent them an email. We'll see what happens. As you can see, I have a little bit of a sunburn, just a wee bit. Playing pickleball in San Diego. I guess we can talk. I'm on the road. I'm on tour. I'm in Hollywood right now. Very exciting. All kinds of billboards and signs for. They all say FYC. FYC. That means for your consideration. It's like award season or something. Went to a fancy library today. Look at this. Where's my a library that gives you stickers? I cannot figure out. There it is. Went to this. You can see like a little Oscar sticker. The library door was locked, and then some security guard let me in, and he asked if I had an appointment for this library, which on Google Maps it didn't look like a special library, but it turns out there was like a Katharine Hepburn reading room, and I snuck my way in. I got in there eventually. I made an appointment to do some research on film, read some scripts, etc., and then proceeded to just get on the Wi-Fi and charge my laptop and do a couple hours of busy work. But got a sticker and got into the library. Would highly recommend it. It was in Beverly Hills. I know that much. It's next to a tennis complex. But it just happened to be the closest library to where I was parked near a coffee shop. And I walked over. All right. How do we find out if this guest is going to join us or if I'm just going to do a solo episode talking about my tour, driving 19 hours to get to San Diego? Let's see. I love to. Let's see. This may be a solo episode. Person emailed me, said they can't get on. I asked them to call me. We'll see if they will. In the meantime, and we'll just do a short episode. So I drove here, drove to California. I'm in California. We'll just do a quick rundown of the last couple of days. It's Monday, June 3rd. On Wednesday, well, I had a crazy. Let's just go back a little bit. Did a comedy festival last weekend. So about 8 days ago, Friday, Saturday, Sunday was Memorial Day weekend. And like earlier in that week, I drove up gear because I had more stuff than could fit in my Subaru Outback, plus a roof box. So I had to make multiple trips. And it's 100 miles each way from Denver to Vail. So drove up, came back to Denver, did a show in Denver a week ago Wednesday. So like May 22nd of 2024. Called Friends of Ale Comedy Festival. A bunch of comics flew in early, super fun. Had a comic from Toronto, Canada. Had comics from all over. Mark, I see your question. I have not yet revealed that. So I'm going to move right on. Wednesday, did that show. Thursday, took the Subaru Outback and was supposed to drive two New York City comics, Mike and Tim from Great Hang with Mike and Tim, the podcast that was the official podcast of the festival this year. Oh, look at that. We got a guest. So you guys are going to have to hear that story another time. Right now, we're going to talk to Trevor Clumpner. Am I saying that right, Trevor?
Yeah. How do I difficulties
Amazing.
over here?
All Can you hear me?
Yeah, you sound great.
Okay, amazing. We got a hard stop in about 25 minutes, so let's jump right in. Trevor, tell me, Appleton, Wisconsin. You're in Wisconsin?
Yeah, sorry, you were muted for some reason there for a second. Yeah, I'm from Appleton, Wisconsin.
Awesome, amazing. I don't know much about Wisconsin. Is that a big place, small place? What is that?
You're out of Colorado, right?
Yeah, Denver.
Okay. I mean, small. So Wisconsin's, it's a normal state, but Appleton is much smaller than Denver. I would give you more of like Colorado Springs.
Oh, Colorado Springs is pretty big. It's like almost 1 million people.
Oh, never mind. It's not that big. Okay. I mean, we have a comedy club. We're big enough for that.
Okay. What's the club
Yeah.
called?
The Skyline.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, there was just a
Yeah.
World Series of Comedy event there.
Yeah, yeah, a couple months ago.
Yeah, right on. Okay,
Yeah.
that's neat. Okay, how long you been doing comedy?
3 years next month.
Nice.
Hmm.
Congratulations. That's
Thank
awesome. Do
you.
you work at that club or go to their
Oh
mic or
yeah, they're owned by Bark Entertainment, and
okay?
I feature for them all over the country.
Nice. Amazing. Okay, so you've been doing comedy 3 years. What got you into comedy? Why did you start?
Let's see here. I've always been a fan of stand-up comedy. Watching, like Comedy Central Presents growing up, stuff like that. Uh, but never really thought of it as something that you just like you can do. Always just kind of thought like, other people do that, even though I liked joking around with my friends. And I I did music for a while, and one of my friends I knew through bands and stuff told me that he was doing comedy, and I was like, "How do you? What do you mean you're doing comedy? You're a guitarist." And he's like, "Oh yeah, I've been going to this open mic," and I was like, "Oh yeah, you can just like do that. You don't. It's just like music. Anyone can do this." So then, yeah, I went and did an open mic, and then the pandemic happened, of course. And then after everything opened up again, I got back to it.
Nice. That's amazing. Sorry. Let me just for anybody who's watching this, I started a story and I'm just going to
Okay.
finish it very quickly. So I
Please
was
do.
talking basically about driving back and forth between Denver and Vail. I did the 3-day festival. Those comics that I was talking about, they were 5 hours late. I told them I wait 4 hours for them. I was a nice guy. I waited a fifth hour. It kind of torpedoed the whole weekend in a sense because I didn't get to do a bunch of tasks before that show. Anyways, I get back to Denver Monday with a car full of stuff, the Outback, unload the car. Tuesday, I drive back to Vail to do a private show with Jenny Zagrino for a company in a hotel. And then that night, drive back to Denver, 12:30 in the morning, 100 miles each way, all these drives. And then Wednesday, which is like 5 days ago now, I unpack my car, reload for this California adventure, and get in the car and start a 19-hour, 2-day drive, which I drive right past Vail again for like the fourth or fifth time in about 10 days. Anyways, that was the whole driving story. A lot of other stories about crazy pool party shows and doing a show in a gym, in an F45 gym, but we'll cover that another time. Today we're talking about Trevor from
Mhm.
Appleton, Wisconsin.
Yeah.
So so you're into comedy, you're doing 3 years, you're getting sent around the country doing stuff. What's the biggest city you've performed in at this point? You've been to Madison?
Uh, no. So I was in Austin, Texas.
Okay.
I actually got on Kill Tony.
I was going to be my question. Amazing. Tell us
Yeah,
about that
yeah,
experience.
yeah.
So cool.
Yeah. So my girlfriend's also a comedian,
Okay.
and
Lives
we
in
went.
Appleton
We
as well.
Yep, yep, yep.
Okay.
So I was traveling to Austin because I have family. I'm from Austin originally,
Okay.
and I never met my biological dad. My entire life, I thought it was this one guy. Turns out it's not because I got a 23 in me. So he lives back in yeah, right. So he lives in San Antonio, and so since I had family in Austin, we just went there to stay with them, and we were gonna meet with my dad at some point, but when I got into Austin, he kind of started ghosting me a little bit. Like he wasn't returning my texts,
This
which I
was
mean, it's a
your
big deal.
biological father
My
or
biological father, yeah,
okay. Okay. So you discovered who your biological father
yeah,
was
yeah.
and you're
And
about
we
to meet him
we've
for the
been
first
we've
time.
been talking, all that
Okay.
stuff, and we get in line for Kill Tony, and my girlfriend's never watched the show, doesn't really care about the show. She's just a comic, and I was just telling her, I'm like, it's really important. Like the show is like a big deal. So we're waiting to in the cages because this is back when it was at the Vulcan. It's before they went into
Okay.
the mothership or whatever. And her name gets called. And it's funny because when the camera pans over to her coming out, you can see me just with a face like this.
Oh,
I'm so pissed because she doesn't even watch the show.
yeah.
And so she gets up there, she does her minute, does great, is awesome. and they're doing the interview portion, and she mentions that she's in town because of with her boyfriend who's also a comic, and so then they had me come up too and do a minute, which I did. And afterwards, they were asking me why I'm in Austin, and I kind of gave them the story. They had me call my dad on air, and
Uh-huh.
again, he hasn't been answering my texts. I don't know why he decided to answer now. And so he gets it was a whole thing. It was, I think it's and I still to this day get messages from people asking me how that all ended up because we like organized a meeting time, all that stuff, and yeah, but yeah, it was crazy.
What's the cliff notes of that? Did you connect with him?
No, I still have yet to meet my biological dad. Yeah, he got
Okay.
COVID.
Okay. Amazing. So how'd your minute go? Were you
Oh,
happy with
good.
it?
Yeah, like it was surreal. Like I was maybe a year in only at the time,
Okay.
and it was like my girlfriend's like 10th open mic only.
Okay.
Uh and it was surreal. Just like I'd never performed for that big of an audience before. I had never yeah, it was just insane. Like I
Who
was
was
shaking when
there
I got off
anybody else
stage.
on the panel besides
Yeah, it
Cunningham?
was oh, what's her name? Mary Lynn Rice Cub.
Yeah. Oh my
Yeah,
goodness.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, from
She was a
24 and
delight. Yeah.
super funny.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Awesome. Amazing. Yeah, and very famous Hollywood
Mm-hmm.
actress. Uh, okay, cool. So you're doing comedy, you're bouncing around. You ever try to run a show
Oh
yourself?
yeah. I mean, how long you been doing comedy?
6 years.
6 years. Okay. So yeah, like when you're starting out, no one's really throwing you on any shows, so you kind of start just producing your own.
Yep. Well,
And
that
I
answers
was
my first
literally
question, which is why
yeah,
did you
yeah,
start your first show? Okay, stage
yeah.
time. Yep.
Yeah, a little. It was a little bit of that. I was a musician, like I said, and I I had all the sound equipment and everything.
Did you tour
And
as a
there was a
musician?
what's that?
Did you tour as a musician, like with a
Yeah, yeah.
band with other
Yep.
people? Okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
How much easier
And
is comedy in that respect?
yeah, yeah. But so I already had all the sound equipment, and there was an open micer who was doing that. He was trying to set up his own shows. I didn't feel like I was at that point yet, and so I was like, "Oh, you know what? I'll run sound for you, dude. It'll be awesome." And as I was running sound and I was watching the show progress, I was like, "Oh, these guys kind of suck." I
I could
can,
do better than this.
I could, I didn't. It wasn't that I could do better. It's just like I could do this.
Okay, got
Uh,
it.
and so then I was just like, yeah, I have friends who own bars, so I ended up setting up a showcase at a local bar called Misfits Tavern. I
Okay,
had a great time. I don't do it there anymore, but up until I stopped doing it, it was great.
nice. Uh, eh, what was something that surprised you, or you wish you could go back and like tell you to do differently when you got
Um,
started running
hmm.
shows?
Get how much your money you're gonna get in writing. That's
Okay,
that's what I would do different. Just a couple times I had to pay out of pocket, and that's never fun.
no, that's a bummer. Um, any would you book locals? Like, was it a paid show? Tell me a little bit
Yeah,
about the
yeah,
show.
it was paid. And tried to
Like people were
mirror
paying
a
for tickets.
so no, so it was a free show.
Okay,
But we got paid as comics
got
by
it.
the
The bar
bar.
had a budget for you.
Yeah, exactly. And I tried to stay comparable to like what club rates are for paying people.
Okay, sure.
Um and yeah, it was usually locals, but I would always try to get an out of towner to headline it.
Okay,
Uh just to, have some actual experience in the room.
sure. All right, we got a question from online, all the way from North Carolina. Is getting
Absolutely.
pay in writing standard or rare? I'll let you answer first, and I'll chime in with some thoughts.
I think once you get further along in the business, it becomes standard that you should have contracts with any venues you work with. But when you're starting out, you don't even think about it. I wouldn't say it's not even in the back of your head because you just want to do comedy.
Yeah, I would say rare, not
Hmm.
even medium rare, bloody rare. I run
Yeah.
75 shows a year. I have never had a contract that specified how much I get paid, and I do get paid by some venues. The only time I ever do contracts is for my festival headliners, and even those
Uh-huh.
are like barely worth the paper they're written on. But so I'd say it's kind of rare. A lot of times, like in my experience, when you're starting a show with a venue, you're kind of the beggar in the situation. Like you really
Yeah.
want the space. So any kind of friction, you want to avoid it. Cause like if you said, okay, great, we've got a deal, here's a contract, can you sign it? That could be the thing that prevents the show from happening. They could be like, oh, we got to run this by our lawyers. Oh, I'll get back to you. There's going to be like a million excuses. A lot of times you're just hoping the show just happens and everybody
Hmm.
has fun so that you can do future shows. And to Trevor's point earlier, sometimes you just don't get paid. That
Yeah.
happens. it's 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 the cost of doing business.
But now,
Um,
so for the comics that you're bringing in, you're promising them a rate though, right?
yeah, yeah, and it's
Yeah.
all essentially handshake agreement. I mean, there are
Yeah.
emails and
Yeah.
text messages. Sometimes it's a phone call.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, for sure they're getting paid. Sometimes on like I do runs where I'll fly in a comic from New York or LA, and they might do like we had Carmen Lynch recently in March, and
Nice.
she
Love
did
Carmen.
8 shows in 6 nights. So it's pretty complicated. We never had a contract for her, but some of them are
Wow,
like,
really?
yeah, no, nothing.
Oh,
So,
wow,
some of
good for
them
you.
are they're like I put it in writing once somebody starts asking a lot of questions about pay. Like a lot of comics don't really care. They kind of have the attitude I have with venues where it's like, it's going to work out. And the couple of times it doesn't work out, I'm never working with that person again. And it's kind of like word of mouth. Like I'll call comics and be like, hey, I'm doing this show. I see you did it recently. Did you get paid? And if they say yes, then that's good enough for me. They could still go
Yeah.
out of business and bounce a check on me. It's happened. But you know, so but sometimes when it's kind of complicated, because it helps me. If somebody keeps asking, I honestly can't remember. I'm booking right now 6 months into the future. So, like, what
Hmm.
I'm paying the comic next month, I don't remember. I'm not going to remember until the day after the last show when it's time to cut them a check. And I'm going to go
Yeah.
back through the emails. And I've gotten a little better over time in putting dollar amounts into my calendar events. So I say,
Okay.
like, this comic's performing and there's a dollar amount next to it. So it helps me tally it up. But Gen- generally, I don't know. I'm not that formal, I guess. And most of the comics I work with don't really care if you're that
Yeah.
formal.
That's why I like I produce now for Don't Tell Comedy, and it's so much easier because
Oh,
they handle all that,
I just
So
did 3 sold out Don't Tell shows in San Diego. It was super fun.
yeah,
3 different
they're a
locations.
blast, aren't they?
Yeah. How often do you do them in Appleton?
We've actually been getting when we started it, I was because there's two other producers I work with because we split up the Appleton Green Bay area
Okay.
because they're like right next to each other, and we were saying every 3 months just because we're not that big of a market. But we've
Okay.
been getting away with monthly actually, and we
Nice.
haven't had any issues. So
Like
I
like
don't.
what? Like a Saturday night?
So how we do it is because we want to get like really good headliners through. We do a
Yep.
weekends. So one night's in Green Bay, one night's in Appleton,
Got
and
it.
that way
So
they get a
a
big chunk
Friday,
of change at the
Saturday.
end. Hmm.
Nice. That's awesome. Anybody you were super excited to have or anybody who crushed especially?
Eddie Pepitone.
Oh my gosh, he's amazing.
Yeah,
Good for
yeah,
you.
yeah.
That's a great get.
Oh, it was an amazing
I-
get until
I'll
he
ask
got
you,
really sick and couldn't do the show the day of.
he didn't
Uh,
he didn't come through?
yeah, he had to go to the hospital. Like it was an emergency situation.
Oh geez. Both
Yeah,
shows?
I mean,
He missed both of them?
we only did him for one night because he happened
Okay.
to just be passing through.
Got it. Okay.
But
Well, who
we've been
actually
in
made it
talks.
that you were impressed with?
Hmm. There's a she's out of Minneapolis. Her name is Jamie Schreiner.
Okay.
She
I
was
don't remember.
awesome. I was insane.
It's a woman or a man?
Woman.
Okay.
And
Cool.
then I remember that. Oh, now I remember. We did Brent Terhune.
Hmm. I don't know him. Where's he from?
He's famous for a character that he does online. You see those videos with the guy with the backwards hat in their truck, and they're just like, I'm sick of Biden. Tammy
Right.
Baldwin sucks. So he
Mhm.
does like a fictional character of that, making fun of that person, and he got like he blew up from it. But
Okay.
he's actually like a very funny comedian too.
Nice. Where is he?
So
Is he in Chicago?
uh, Indiana, I want to say
Okay.
Indianapolis, maybe.
All
Yeah.
right. Good for him. Cool. Um, Amazing. Well, Don't Tell is
Mhm.
cool. You ever have to kick somebody out of a show?
Yeah, actually, we have. That was a weird experience. So there's this really cool independent venue here in town called the Train Station.
Okay.
They cater to a lot of like punk bands, stuff like that. And there's like a recording studio in the basement. It's just a really cool space. And
Hmm.
so my first ever Don't Tell show was at this space because I have a very long running relationship with them. And we're doing the show. Everything's going really good. And there's this dude I wouldn't he was polite heckling, you know what I mean? Like, the kinda
Okay.
like, "Yeah, you're doing good," just kinda like, "Hey, alright, man, enough." And I'm looking at him, and I'm like, I don't remember checking that guy in." And I go over to the other producer, and I'm like, "Hey, did you check that guy in?" And he's like, "No." I was like, "Huh, okay." And so I go over, and I'm like, "Hey, man, do you have tickets for this event? Like, what's going on?" And as I get closer, he smells like pee. And just yeah,
Is he
and
sitting next to
don't
other customers?
other customers, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Right.
And so, don't tell is a BYOB type event. Everyone brings their own booze.
Right.
He did bring his own booze, so he was fitting in that way. But no one else was drinking like like Mad Dog, or anything like that. And
Sure.
so I'm like, hey man, this is a paid event. I'm gonna have to ask you to step outside with us so we can, because I don't want to like interrupt the show
Yeah.
anymore. So he actually listened, went outside with us, and I'm like, yeah, this is a paid event, it's a private thing. Uh, you can't be here. And he's like, okay, okay, this is a really cool space. And I was like, oh yeah, thank you. Been around. Check out their website. They have shows all the time. And he's like, yeah, I think me and my boys are gonna come by later and fuck this place up. And I'm just like, no, you're not. Shut up. Like I just went into like, dude, I will punch you in the face right now if you don't get out. Like, I was about to lose my shit. He ended up leaving. No, no, his boys never showed up. But yeah, that was interesting. It froze up on me there.
Yeah. I Somebody's internet went slow. I don't know if it was yours or mine.
I didn't
Um,
mind. There's a big storm happening right now.
okay. Sorry. So I missed the climax of that. Did what was the so he said he was gonna mess the place up, and then what happened?
Yeah, him and his boys were gonna come and mess the place up. Well,
Yep.
first off, he was like, "You
Yep.
guys are pretty funny, but my guys are
Yeah.
funnier." And I was like, "What guys?" He's like, "Yeah, we're gonna come
Right.
and we're gonna take this place over. We're gonna mess it up." And I'm like, "Dude, get out of here. You're wasted." And he ended up
And
nothing
he
ever
never
came
came
of it.
back, I take it?
Yeah, 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 nothing ever. He was
Okay.
just being a
Well, that's
drunk.
good.
But
That's good.
yeah, but I
Any
was like,
cool
"Geez, man."
any what's been your favorite venue to pop up a show at? And, what's your, like,
Oh,
dream venue? I have a guess as
we
to
did
your
an
dream.
animal sanctuary. That was pretty cool.
Huh.
Um,
Could you see or hear the animals during
you
the
couldn't hear
show?
them, but you could see them.
Oh, that's neat.
It was
That's
set up in a
cool.
really weird way, but I liked it.
Huh.
Uh, I find I wouldn't say like my favorite show I've ever done for Don't Tell was this tiny, just the tiniest salon. And like I don't know how we fit 30 chairs in there, but we somehow did. And
Yeah.
so the Skyline Comedy Club is on the third floor of this big historic building here in Appleton, and we
Okay.
did it on the second floor in this
Okay.
salon. What's his? I can't remember the name of the comedian who was the headlining up at the Skyline, but it was a big name guy. And but so we're in this tiny salon, and when I get there, I'm setting up. I'm like, man, it's really hot in here. Like, can we get the AC up in here? And they're like, we'd love to, but the AC is controlled by the other salon, and they locked their doors and left for the night, and they turned it off. So it is
Uh-oh.
like 90 degrees in this room.
Oh,
People are
geez.
like people are fanning themselves, but while it was a hot room, it was also like a really hot room. It was I've never heard last like it
Nice.
was crazy. So everyone was like, man, that was the best. That was the best. Like it was, yeah. And that was my favorite one we've ever done. But as in like a dream venue, there is a organ factory here in town. Like they make like the big organs, like you'd see
Oh,
like yeah,
I
yeah,
was
yeah,
thinking like livers and kidneys.
yeah. No, it's this giant organ factory, and it's in a mosque that used
Okay.
to be an old mosque that used to be owned by Harry Houdini's dad.
Wow.
He was, yeah, yeah. And so like, and it's gorgeous inside. And
Yeah.
like the outside is gorgeous too. And I want it so bad, but I just cannot make the right connections with the right people to get this moving.
Yeah.
I'm like, I went on the radio, one of our local radio stations to talk about Don't Tell. And one of the DJs was like, "Oh, I know the people who like run that." So I'm waiting. I'm fingers crossed. I want it so bad.
Nice. That's cool. All right, we're running out of time. So I think you have a story to tell, and I have a question for our regular viewers. Do I
Okay.
have a sunburn? Are you a doctor, Dr. Clumpner? Looks like a sunburn to me. We'll see how this looks in a week.
Oh
It
yeah.
looks like radioactive.
I thought you had a
Pickleball,
cold or something
dangerous
because it
sport.
like your nose.
I know. Well, that's the
Yeah.
angle of the
Yeah.
sun.
No, I see it now.
I have a protruding nose
Yeah.
that soaked up that sun. Okay, Trevor, you have a road story, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's just it happened to me recently. I was you ever worked for the pub and grub tour?
Yeah, Dog
Okay. Dear dog. Yeah.
or
Yeah.
yeah,
It,
yeah,
nothing.
yes,
Nothing. It's
yes,
not a horror story with them. They've been nothing
right,
but fantastic to me.
got it.
I was on my way to one of their shows, and I stopped at this rest stop to use the bathroom, and I'm at the urinal, and this
Where
like,
set it up? Where you headed?
oh, I could
Where's the
somewhere
long
southern
drive or
Wisconsin.
short drive?
3 hour drive.
Okay, okay,
Yeah, yeah,
Midwest.
nothing crazy. So
Okay,
I'm uh I'm in this rest stop. It's about halfway there. I'm using the bathroom, and this like I want to say he's like a 70-year-old man comes walking in wearing a very nice like business casual attire. And I'm peeing, and I'm like, man, this guy's. He just had a weird vibe about him. I'm like, all right, whatever. And I was already feeling uncomfortable because when I walked into the rest stop bathroom, there was like a discarded, very used looking pair of underwear just kind of kicked into a corner. Uh, and I'm just like, okay, this is a weird place. So I'm peeing, and he comes into the urinal next to me, and I'm like, all right, whatever. And I'm peeing, and like he's like, I'm like have him in the peripheral vision. And he's kind of like vibrating a little bit. I'm like, what
okay.
is? So I look over. Dude is viciously masturbating
Saw
into the
that one
urinal
coming.
next to me. And he's just like, and he's kind of like side eyeing me. And I was just like, I didn't even say anything. I just stopped what I was doing and just walked. I was like, what the fuck, you know? So I walk out, and like, I'm sitting in my car, like, Jesus Christ, did that just happen? And he comes out and gets into a very nice car with what I'm assuming is his wife in the passenger seat. I don't know if they're on some road trip, and he's just like, hold on, I gotta pop one off real quick, to see who's unsuspecting victims are in here. But I learned later that that was a very popular cruising spot. So I was like, oh, okay, maybe I was giving off some vibe that that's what I was there for, but I don't think I was. I was just peeing.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's wild. All right. All right. So you run Don't Tell to Comedy
Mhm.
in Appleton, Wisconsin. Everybody check out them and Trevor there. Where else can people find you?
We talking like social medias or just like upcoming
Sure.
dates?
Whatever you want to pitch.
Oh yeah, you can find me Trevor Clumpner Comedy on all things, trevorclumpnercomedy.com. What's her name? Opening for Stara Kalana in Louisville at the end of the month, featuring for Jason Ellis at the Skyline, end of July. All the other shows I have are at bars that no one's probably heard of, so I'll just keep those away.
All right. Someday soon, big theaters everywhere. Trevor Clumpner.
Hopefully.
Thank you so much for joining us on Always Booking Comedy. We're back next Monday. We get a nice thank you from North Carolina. Thank you for tuning in, Mark, in North Carolina. We'll see. Sorry about last week, by the way. Mark in North Carolina. And we'll see you next week. Another fantastic guest. Everybody have a good one. I'm going to shut this down, and Trevor, stick around for a second.
All right, sounds
Bye-bye.
good.